and welcome. This session is Navigating the Grocery Aisle, your guide to nutrition labels, and I'm April Potter of Sweet Resolve. Today, we're going to demystify one of the most powerful tools you have for managing your diabetes, the nutrition label. Think of it as a cheat sheet that gives you a rundown on what you're about to eat so you can make smart choices. Learning how to read these labels is a game changer for controlling your blood sugar and staying healthy. Our topics for discussion are number one, serving size, the most important number on the label. Number two, carb counting, why total carbs is your best friend. Number three, decoding sugars, the difference between total sugars and added sugars. Number four, fiber power, why fiber is so good for you. Number five, making smart choices, how to use the label to pick the right foods. And number six, beyond the label, the Mediterranean diet and building a balanced plate. Let's get into it. Anatomy of a nutrition label. Let's break down the main parts of a nutrition label. The first thing you'll see is the serving size and servings per container. This is crucial. All the information below it, like carbs, calories, fats, that is for one serving, not the whole package. If the serving size is 1 cup and you eat 2 cups, you need to double all the numbers that you see on the nutrition label. Next, look at the calories. This tells you how much energy you're getting from one serving. For diabetes management, the next section is the most important, macronutrients. There are 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So total carbohydrates, this is your primary concern. Carbs are an energy source for our bodies, but carbs turn into glucose in your body, and which directly impacts your blood sugar. One serving of carbohydrate equals about 15 to 20 grams. And you will see the carbohydrates broken down into dietary fiber. So this is a type of carbohydrate that doesn't raise blood sugar. It's actually a good thing. So you want to aim for foods that have more fiber. Next, you'll see total sugars. This includes naturally occurring sugars and added sugars. We want to limit added sugars as much as possible, as they can cause rapid blood sugar spikes. Your natural sugars are going to be like your sugars found in fruit. Your added sugars are going to be things like honey, cane sugar, those type of things. Next, you have protein. Protein helps you feel full and has a minimal effect on blood sugar. We need protein for our muscles. And then total fat. So fat is another source of energy. Look for healthy fats like monosaturated and polyunsaturated fats, and try to limit saturated and trans fats. What you're going to notice on the food label, however, is that the monosaturated and the polyunsaturated fats are actually not listed. Okay, so let's talk about how to read that section. So if you look at the total fat section on an item, for example, let's say this item had 5 grams of total fat, and it had 1 gram of saturated fat. That would mean that it has 4 grams of poly or mono unsaturated fat, which is the good fats, okay? And again, those are not going to be listed. So you have to do a little bit of math here to figure out if this is an item that would be good for you. And when we talk about fat, we're talking about cholesterol. So that's why we want to pay attention to what we're eating here and choose healthier fats and low fat items. Beyond the basics, here are a few things to look for. Sodium. Many processed foods are high in sodium. Too much sodium can increase blood pressure, which is a risk factor for heart disease. When looking at sodium, I recommend looking at the percentage versus the milligrams. If it's less than 5%, the item will usually read low sodium on the front. Try to choose items with single digits per serving or at least less than 20% of sodium. Vitamins and minerals. The label also lists some vitamins and minerals, and that can be helpful for you to that can be helpful for you to identify foods that are nutrient dense. And lastly, the ingredients list. Don't skip this part. Ingredients are listed in order from the greatest amount to the least. So you want to look out for words like sugar, syrup, dextrose near the top of the list, which can indicate a high sugar content in that item. Also, we want to try to find items that have more naturally occurring ingredients. So that would mean trying to choose items that you can actually just read the label. The example that you see on the screen here just says stuff like reduced fat milk, refined fish oil, vitamin A, vitamin D, those type of things. So if there are items that you can read, likely that is going to be a better item for you. And just my rule of thumb is try items that have ingredients of 10 or less. Okay. Lastly, we come to making a balanced plate. So, reading nutritional labels is about understanding the ingredients, but building a healthy meal is about how you put it all together. One of the simplest and most effective ways to plan a meal is using the plate method. It's a visual guide that helps you get the right balance of food groups without complicated measuring or counting calories. Half of your plate should be non-starchy vegetables. Mediterranean examples of non-starchy vegetables would be like a Greek salad with crisp lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes, bell peppers, Kalamata olives, or you could have sauteed spinach with garlic, roasted zucchini and eggplant, fresh arugula with lemon herb dressing. These are rich in fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants, okay? 1/4 of your plate would be lean proteins. Okay. So we want to choose lean because, again, we are choosing heart healthy items. So we don't want that fat on our meats. So lean proteins, even plant based, according to the Mediterranean diet, examples would be like grilled or baked salmon or trout, chickpeas or lentils, simmered with herbs, a small serving of skinless chicken breast, hard boiled egg, Greek yogurt as a side or a sauce. Okay. Prioritize fish a few times a week and incorporate plant proteins regularly. All right, so your plant proteins again are going to be like those chickpeas, edamame, lentils, stuff like that. Those are just good for you. And even though we say that beans will raise your blood sugar just a little bit, they have good fiber, they have protein. So your beans and lentils are a good choice and a good source of protein for you to eat. And then another 1/4 of your plate, you want to have those complex carbohydrates. Mediterranean examples of this are going to be like quinoa, bulgur, whole grain pita bread, whole grain pasta, whole wheat pasta, a small baked sweet potato. Okay, these provide sustained energy and fiber. So here I want to make a note that women can have 2 to 3 servings of carbohydrate per meal, which equals to about 30 to 45 grams, and men can have 3 to 4 servings per meal, or about 45 to 60 grams. Okay. And don't forget healthy fats and flavor. Mediterranean examples would be a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil over your salad or cooked vegetables, sprinkled with some nuts like almonds, walnuts, or seeds like sesame seeds. Add some avocado slices. Use fresh herbs like oregano, basil, parsley, lemon juice for brightness. All of these things are going to give you good flavor, but also just be very nutrient dense and make sure that you're eating healthy and balancing out this plate. So, putting it all together, reading a nutrition label might seem complex at first, But with a little practice, it'll become second nature. It's a powerful tool that gives you control over your diet and ultimately your health. You can do this. Now, let's take a look at some frequently asked questions. The first one says, what if I can't find the nutrition label on a product? So, if it is a common item, like say a food that you pick up at the bakery or some fresh foods, this might be a common issue. So, you just want to kind of use a method where you're using like half a cup or a cup to kind of identify how much of it you can eat. So, like, let's just say it was a muffin at the bakery. Okay. Our rule of thumb is basically holding it in the palm of your hand. So if you can hold it in the palm of your hand, that would roughly be about one serving of carbohydrate. Okay. So we want to keep it pretty small. We can't have, these huge, like the loaf that you might get at the bakery. Of course, you can't eat that whole thing. So we want to, maybe even compare the loaf, for example, to, a slice of bread that you would get, if it was sliced, and kind of try to slice that way so that you can have a better portion size there and know about how much of it you're eating. Okay. Number two, I'm confused about differences between total sugars and added sugars. Okay. Again, total sugars are going to be all the sugar in the item. Okay. So when you see that total sugar on there, that is all the sugar that is in that item that is contributing to the carbohydrates. Okay. But natural sugars are what comes naturally in an item. Like if that item has lemon or orange or, something like that in there, those already have sugars in them. Okay. Added sugars come from sources like cane sugar, brown sugar, honey. Okay, so that's going to be what's added. And again, we want to try to avoid that because those items will cause you to have a quicker blood sugar spike. Next, I see net carbs on some labels. Is that the same as total carbs? So this is a common marketing term. So what that means is that they have taken the total carbohydrates and they have subtracted the fiber from that item. Okay? So they took the total carbohydrates and they subtracted the fiber and then they put the net carbohydrates. Okay? When you're reading a nutrition label, I want you to just compare apples to apples. Sometimes those items might be higher in fiber, which of course we know we want higher fiber items, but that doesn't mean you should pay more for them because there might be an item that doesn't say net carbs that will give you pretty much the same nutritional value without the dollar cost. And then lastly, how do I balance my carbs if a meal has different carb heavy foods like a sandwich with bread and chips? So again, looking at that nutrition label for each of those items, we know that like items like sandwiches, for in general, you can about look on the label of those types of breads and see about how much they are. A lot of things now. You can look up for if you were eating, like, let's just say this meal was at a Subway or something like that. There is an app that you can use called Calorie King that I really like, and that will help you to be able to navigate the eating out world. We do want you to eat at home as much as possible, but if you had to grab something, that is a good little reference guide to help you see how many carbohydrates there are in there. And then just remember that for women, the recommended carb amount is 30 to 45 grams per meal, or 2 to 3 servings, and then for men is 45 to 60 grams, or 3 to 4 servings. So something like a sandwich, if this was just a regular sandwich with a small bag of chips, and when I say small bag of chips, we're talking about the little bags now that are like two for $1. Okay, so that would be one serving. Or like a handful if you were getting them out of a bigger bag. So each slice of bread would be one serving of carbs. So for the sandwich, that would mean 2 servings. And then your handful of chips would be your third serving of carbohydrate. And just remember that we always want to make sure that we are pairing carbohydrate and protein always, even if it's a snack. So this sandwich and chips combo would probably be pretty good as far as maintaining blood sugar, because we know most sandwiches are going to have some type of meat in there, or a protein source. And that's what you want. So you always want to pair protein and carbohydrate. That brings us to the end of our presentation today. I hope that you learned something and that you enjoyed this presentation, and that you now have a way to figure out healthier meals for yourself and help you to manage those blood sugars better.